How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation, back in the home studio. The phone number, if you'd like to be on the program today, 877-973-7425. Delighted to be with you. Had a great time at Sea Island yesterday. Thanks to the Speaker of the House for being fantastically entertaining. It was a good time. Got to sit on stage, do a Q&A. One of the points I made was how to interpret the election, and I'm going to continue to insist this because I actually am right in this. We should not overplay our hand the way the Democrats overplayed their hands. Remember, after Biden got elected, he brought all these historians in who told him he was the second coming of LBJ, go big or go home, and he did, and he's going home now, as are all the Democrats, because they overshot. This was about the economy more than anything else. There are lots of other issues, but number one, the economy, illegal immigration. If Trump can fix the economy, deal with illegal immigration, he's got license to do so much more. But Biden came in, the economy was broken because of COVID, and he made it worse, so he got no license to do everything he did, but he thought he had a mandate. He didn't. You get a mandate from competence at the core tasks, and so if Trump can do good with the core tasks, I think he can do fine. But I don't want to actually start there. I've got thoughts on that. But I want to begin somewhere else. First of all, though, I do want to remind you, if you text the word data to 33777, you can subscribe to the show notes. If you're not a paid subscriber, you're getting a discount right now. I think it's 15% discount from $70 a year. So it's like 50 some odd dollars a year. See, I can kind of do that math in my head. So text data to 33777. When the show starts, you get the show notes, all the stuff I'm talking about on the show, the links, and then some. And I want to start with this video, because I played this in part yesterday, but it's so important, I think it's worth bringing back up because of its significance. This is Ken Dilanian on MSNBC railing against Kash Patel as potentially the FBI director who Donald Trump wants. I got, by the way, some procedural thoughts on that. Here we go.
I got to emphasize this to our viewers because a lot of people don't really understand everything the FBI does. The FBI director wields incredible power in the United States. And for anyone who doesn't believe that, go read a biography of J. Edgar Hoover. Now, we don't live in the Hoover days anymore, but the FBI still, they have people who can break into your home and plant a bug and you'll never know about it. And they can get secret warrants, national security warrants to do that, and no one will ever find out. They can obtain the records of news media phone calls and we'll never hear about it, assuming a Justice Department set of guidelines on that is overturned. So this is an incredibly powerful job. And
it's an incredibly powerful job. So just, y'all hear me out on this, please. Just hear me out on this. What if we took away some of the powers of the FBI? Both sides keep forgetting this. Republicans forget it when Democrats get in charge. Democrats forget it when they get in charge. When Republicans get in charge, Republicans forget it. Democrats forget it when they're in charge. Why don't we just take the power away? We don't have to have an FBI director who is powerful enough to be able to kick in your front door, bug your home without you ever knowing it, or seize the cell phone records of journalists without anyone ever being able to. We don't have to do that. We don't have to live that way. But this is part of the problem. Democrats actually want that power. They just don't want Donald Trump to have that power, and they forget. Democrats are more prone to forget than Republicans, although as the Republican Party realigns, bringing a lot of old Democrats, the Republicans are forgetting this as well. There's no such thing as permanence in American politics. There is no permanent American political majority. Ask Karl Rove. Karl Rove, back in 2004, had read the biography of the man who led Teddy Roosevelt to victory. Mark, what's his name now? I can't remember. A million people are about to text me. And he wanted to find a way to build a permanent Republican majority in the country, and he failed. There's no such thing as permanence in American politics. And part of what we're going through right now is a realignment. And I think we've largely gone through it now. We're starting to lock in the new realignment. College-educated, white, wealthy people were Republicans until Trump. Now they're Democrats. Black and Hispanic and white working-class voters were Democrats. Now they're Republicans. Secular wealthy people were Republicans. Now they're Democrats. Poor Christians were Democrats. Now they're Republicans. You do always have a segment of the college educated who are Republicans. I got to tell you, my kid is not at a woke school, but she's getting radicalized by some of the stuff she sees on her college campus. She's becoming more militant as she's on the right, not the left, and becoming more so as she sees some of the bat crap crazy things that happen on her college campus. And again, she's not at a woke school, but this stuff spills over across academia, except at Hillsdale College. But nonetheless, I digress. We don't have to give the president the powers that Congress has given him. We don't have to allow the president to take on powers. And frankly, just tangent, maybe we should take the national security powers of the FBI and give them to another entity of some kind that doesn't also have an arrest power. So we have a surveillance bureau and we have a law enforcement bureau, and never are they the same thing. That would solve some of the problem. We've made government too powerful. Republicans and Democrats alike have. 9/11 had a lot to do with the Republicans' willingness to expand the security state. Democrats, as well, love the power. And as the parties have realigned, what the Democrats have done is they have erected a number of arguments in favor of government that benefits the Democrats. They talk about norms and Trump shattering the norms. Well, who established the norms? Democrats established the norms. And people on the Republican side who shared the Democrats' worldview, not conservatives. Conservatives has always been bad. Remember, Reagan was going to start World War III. Reagan was bad. Reagan was going to shatter the norms. They accused Reagan of shattering norms. Well, Reagan was so successful in shattering their norms that Reagan's norms became normal, and the Democrats over time chipped away at Reagan's norms, and it's never shattering norms when Democrats do it. They realigned the norms with Clinton and then with Obama, and now the Republicans are upending what Clinton and Obama did, again, like Reagan, like George W. Bush, and suddenly it's shattering norms again. You got to remember, historically, you can go back and check it yourself, they did attack George W. Bush for shattering norms in Washington, D.C. Now they're doing it to the Republicans, and all the Republicans are doing is just shattering the way the Democrats designed government to work for Democrats. And it's part of the realignment process. And if Democrats are driven to existential frenzy over the idea that the President of the United States of America just might be super powerful, they can take his power away. There are a lot of Republicans who would gladly side with the Democrats in taking the president's power away. They would have a veto-proof majority in both houses of Congress if they did it. But they don't want to do it because it's part of their establishment of democratic norms. What have they done? Well, credentialism. You can't have an opinion on transgenderism because you don't have the right credential. You're not a biologist. And if you're a biologist who has an opinion that disagrees with the Democrats' norm, you're a bigot. And the academy will marginalize you, and your credentials will be called into question, that you are inferior enough that your opinion isn't valid anymore because you're a bigot now because you disagree with the Democrats. Well, but Americans rejected credentialism in the election. So what do the Democrats have? They got a technocratic bureaucracy in place that always benefits the Democrats. And now here comes Donald Trump to destroy the bureaucracy, the deep state that benefits the Democrats, and suddenly he's shattering norms again. It's always shattering norms. It's establishing constructs of good governance for the American Republic. It's a threat to democracy, people. No, it's just the Republicans winning. And so Republicans are going to reshape government. And so the Democrats say it's bad. It's like the Democrats have spent an inordinate amount of energy over the last couple of years discrediting the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court has been throwing out cases and reversing long-held progressive precedent because now conservatives are in charge. So suddenly, because the Supreme Court is not propping up the norms of the left, it's a discredited, disgraceful, corrupt institution. The Democrats will destroy any institution that does not prop up the Democrats, and that's what's happening here. It's not that Donald Trump is disrupting norms. The fact of the matter is Donald Trump's first term in office was a pretty standard Republican with an isolationist bent mix. Donald Trump was a pretty standard Republican with pretty standard Republican policies, but constantly we were told he was shattering norms and disrupting things because he was getting rid of the norms established by Democrats with help from the media to keep the Democrats in charge, and it was a bridge too far for them. So all I'm telling you people is maybe we shouldn't have an FBI director who can kick in your door, plant bugs, seal back up your door, and you never know. Maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't have federal bureaucrats who can destroy your life. Maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't have a massive pile of federal criminal statutes when the law enforcement purposes of the government are left with the states. Maybe we shouldn't have a government that has the power to compel local schools on what to teach and how to teach and give them money if they do and don't give them money if they don't and ruin education. Maybe we shouldn't have a federal government that can break the local educational system. Maybe, just maybe, we should return to the norms of our founders, which were a limited federal government. The whole reason Democrats are all about their norms right now is they've shattered the limited role of Washington, and they've expanded the deep state, the police state, the administrative state, the bureaucratic state, the technocratic state, the state of chaos in Washington, D.C., and they're very upset that Donald Trump just might rein it in. My concern, as I said yesterday, my concern is that many of Donald Trump's picks might just be performative and not actually competent. So they performed well for Donald Trump to show their loyalty, but they might actually not be competent enough to break up the deep state. I want a government that you can drown in a bathtub because it's so small. I want Donald Trump's bulls in the china shops. I want people like Kash Patel to disrupt the comfortable norms of a democratic bureaucracy and a police state, deep state, administrative state that believes that it is entitled and endowed by God to govern us and govern our lives and rule our lives without ever having to stand for election. I want that disruption. And we're certainly going to get some disruption, but I just worry about the competence of some of his picks to outlast, survive, outthink, and overwhelm the deep state. But if you're if you're going out to sterilize yourself because you think that Donald Trump taking back government is terrible for you and your rights, first of all, go on and do that. But when you come back from your appointment, I want you to understand that it doesn't have to be so. I don't want you to breed and have kids if you're that stupid. But when you come back from your vasectomy appointment or your sterilization appointment or whatever it is, I want you to hear me on this. You should not live in terror because of who the president of the United States is. And if you are, you should recognize it means you think that power of that person is too much, and you should commit to reining in that power with people like me. And if you're not willing to commit to rein in the power, what you're saying is you don't really care. You just don't want the other side to have the power. But again, full circle to the beginning of the monologue, there's no such thing as permanence in politics. It's going to keep happening to you unless you rein in the size and scope of Washington, D.C. So maybe, just maybe, you should join people like me in being committed to doing that. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson. Don't forget, if you text the word ARMY, A-R-M-Y, to 33777, as we go around the country, we'll be letting you know where we're headed. I'm headed to Salt Lake this coming weekend for an event with Americans for Prosperity. But also, you'll be able to join our army of activists as we cajole Congress and state legislatures to take action or refrain from taking action, among other things. Now, The phone number, 877-973-7425. After 2020, one of the number one issues that stolen election conspiracy theorists would throw at me was Dinesh D'Souza's Mules book. What is it? 2,000 Mules. Dinesh D'Souza has now apologized publicly for the claims made in his 2,000 Mules book. He did so after legal proceedings. He was accused of defamation, among other things. And he writes, "We were assured that the surveillance data had been linked to geolocation cell phone data such that each video depicted an individual who had made at least 10 visits to drop boxes. Indeed, it is clear from the interviews within the film itself that True the Vote was correlating the videos to geolocation data. We recently learned that surveillance videos used in the film may not have actually been correlated with the geolocation data," adding that his movie and book created the, quote, "impression that these individuals were mules that had been identified as suspected ballot harvesters based on the True the Vote cell phone data." Well, Dinesh D'Souza has concluded that people were wrongfully accused of misconduct. While all the individuals' images were blurred and unrecognizable, one of the individuals has since come forward publicly and has initiated a lawsuit over the use of his blurred image in the film and the book. "I owe this individual, Mark Andrews, an apology. I now understand that the surveillance videos used in the film were characterized on the basis of inaccurate information provided to me and my team." So the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, to their credit, exonerated Mark Andrews, who was pointed and was fairly identified in the movie, even if he was blurred out. He was claimed to be ballot harvesting. He actually legally was dropping off ballots from members of his family. He filed a defamation suit. In his lawsuit, he alleged that the baseless claims made led to violent threats against him and his family. And Salem Media, he apologized. They pulled the book. And now Dinesh D'Souza is himself saying that much of the video characteristics were not true. He still claims to stand by his claims, but there you have it. Now, I got to tell you about Hillsdale College. If you go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com, you can watch a short video on their honor code, what makes them unique, what sets them apart. They're a great organization, y'all. They really are. One of the best academic institutions in the country. They've been around since 1844, educating, not indoctrinating. They'd love to have a relationship with you. They give so much away to you for free, including Imprimis, which I cannot recommend enough. I have been getting Imprimis since I was in law school. You can get it as well, completely for free. You will never pay for Imprimis. You go to Eric, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com today. You sign up, watch the short video, sign up for Imprimis, even get their podcast network. They've got great, highly educational podcasts in your favorite podcast app, and it's completely free again. ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. Sign up today with Hillsdale College. Stimulate your mind and get more informed about thought in this country. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be delighted to have you. I gotta just say, the CNN team has done a very good job calling back some of the people who insisted Joe Biden would never do what Joe Biden did, including this very awkward moment with Congressman Dan Goldman and Brianna Keeler from CNN. This is very awkward. Just Dan Goldman, it looks like he's holding his breath. Just listen.
You went out on a limb backing up Biden when he said that there would not be a pardon. In July of 2023, just after that plea deal fell through, this is what you said. I want to watch.
Do you think a pardon for his son would be a mistake? Yes, and I don't think there's any chance that President Biden is going to do that, unlike his predecessor, who pardoned all of his friends and anyone who had any access to him. And I think you see that in this case, where he kept on, and Merrick Garland kept on, a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney to investigate the president's son. If there is not an indication of the independence of the Department of Justice beyond that, I don't know what we could look for.
What does that feel like, watching yourself back then, reassuring people that Biden was not going to issue a pardon for his son?
Yeah, and I think that if that plea agreement and that plea deal had gone through, there would be no pardon. That was a satisfactory outcome.
It had already fallen
that
through.
Only was. Sorry?
When you reacted, this was when the deal had fallen through. And I hear what you're saying about the Kash Patel appointment, but, you took him at his word. So what does that feel like, knowing that he's gone back on it?
The look on the guy. Oh, I wish you guys could see it. Oh, my gosh. The look on Christians. And by the way, he goes on to make some partisan points and to attack the process and all that. But what he does is he ignores the fact that his original defense of Biden came well after all of that, when the prosecution continued after the collapse of the settlement, after the collapse of the deal, all of that. By the way, a deal we know that was designed by the prosecution team to benefit the Bidens collapses. And he was like, oh, well, this just means that there's no partisanship in the Department of Justice. And she's like, you said that after the deal collapsed, not before the deal collapsed. And he couldn't, he had to spin his way out of it. And now this is Jake Tapper, also on CNN.
President Biden lying about this, of course, makes others in his administration and allies either credulous or complicit, including White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, who's been saying this for months to the American people.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Well,
I just said no. I just answered.
I could speak for the president, and he said he would not pardon his son.
Does the president have any intention of pardoning him?
We've been asked that question multiple times. Our answer stands, which is no.
The answer does not stand. There was.
Good for him. And by the way, in fairness, as I mentioned yesterday, Dana Bash, Wolf Blitzer, John King, Jake Tapper at CNN, even Anderson Cooper, they never fell for he's not going to pardon him. They were always incredulous when Democrats insisted it was so. So many at MSNBC that were reeled in. This is why the ratings, by the way, are crashing at MSNBC. And I do wonder what's going to happen to Karine Jean-Pierre. Which network is going to hire her? Will CNN do outreach to her? Will MSNBC? After her shattered credibility of backing up Joe Biden, what will she say? If she, what these networks tend to do, particularly CNN, and I went through this myself when I was there, is they make you come on and you have the awkward interview where you got to essentially grapple with the things you said in the past that clearly defy norms, defy expectations, seem to be me. Boy, they put me through the ringer for things I had tweeted before I became a CNN contributor. It's very interesting to see the fallout from this continues. And, even Democrats are starting to realize this makes their job questioning the incoming Trump administration. It hurts them. Here's the conversation with Andrew McCabe from formerly of the FBI with the CNN anchors.
Former Deputy Director of the FBI and CNN Senior Law Enforcement Analyst. Andy, thank you so much for being with us. Let's start with Hunter Biden. What was your reaction to the news that Joe Biden would pardon him, and what do you think the fallout is going to be from this long term?
Yeah, Boris, I was a little shocked, I have to say. I'm sure that this decision was torturous for President Biden. It really pits him against two things that we know mean very much to him: his respect for the system of justice and his role as an institutionalist, preserving those sorts of institutions, and his love for and desire to protect his son. So he had no easy choices here, but nevertheless, choosing to issue this pardon for whatever reasons he did after so many times saying he would not is a really bad look for him. And I think it's potentially a destructive thing for his party. I think it creates the appearance of hypocrisy, and I think it could go to supporting what I think are misguided opinions, but nevertheless people's opinions that the system is somehow stacked in favor of Democrats against Republicans. I think this looks like the nation's head Democrat using the system for his own benefit.
And Republicans are really seizing on the time frame here, right? Including
Republicans are seizing on the time frame. Yeah. Of course Republicans are, because Democrats said this wouldn't happen. And regardless of his, and you got to note how charitably they want to continue to give Joe Biden the benefit of the doubt. You got to note all of that stuff. That's very important to note and understand. And yet, yes, it does look bad. Is it understandable? Yeah, it actually is understandable. It totally is understandable. As a human being, you get this. As a father with his kids, and I know there are going to be some people, I would never do this to my son. Spare me. This is Tommy Tuberville, the senator from Alabama.
What do you think about the president pardoning his son?
President Biden, well, I'll put it this way. If it was my son, I'd pardon him too. But here's what I didn't like. Don't lie to us. Don't tell us you're not going to do it and then do it. That's not what a president should be like. You know, if you're going to do it, which he should have at the end of the day when somebody asks him that, I'll make that decision later. But don't lie to the American people, because it's not upholding to the President of the United States. But it won't be the last pardon. I'm sure there will be a lot of other family members down the line who will get a pardon closer to the inauguration. But this has been a tough time for our country. Having a family like this involved in all things they've been involved in. I'm not going to prosecute and put guilt on anybody right now, but I think in the future, the things I've seen, you're going to see a lot of things come out that's going to be very unbecoming to this administration.
Good for him. Yeah, look, I'd pardon him too. As a dad, you would, but he lied. He lied repeatedly, and it's not just him. It's members of the media, and not just Democrats, who repeatedly echoed that lie, and there should be an accounting. There should be an accounting at MSNBC for the anchors who peddled the lie. There should be an accounting for people at CNN, not the partisan pundits, but others who continue to just accept as fact that because Biden said it, of course it wasn't true. There should be an accounting for this sort of stuff. And you and I know there's not going to be, but it needs to be said there should be. The fallout, though, it totally undermines the Democrats' attacks on Donald Trump. Dave Portnoy, can't play the video because of the language, but Dave Portnoy was like, spare me, Democrats, your claims to moral high ground. Now, I've been saying that for a while. The Democrats are perfectly fine killing kids and Jews, and they want to lecture any of us about Donald Trump or anything. I mean, you've got anti-Semitic Democrats out there screaming river to sea, which is a code for the extermination of the Jewish state. And the Democrats are like, oh, we're the morally high ground people. No, you're not. You believe boys can cut off their private parts to become girls. You're not better than us. You're morally sanctimonious in your echo chamber. But now this further exposed their hypocrisy and their false sense of sanctimony against the rest of us. It undermines their entire argument for being. In fact, here's Claire McCaskill on MSNBC.
Do I understand Joe Biden's pardon? Yes, completely. I get it. It's completely understandable. But the both sides folks out there have just gotten some really powerful ammunition, and for that reason, I hate it.
Both sides. Oh, poor both sides folks, pointing out both sides do it because they do. Your moral sanctimony, it doesn't hold up anymore. It can't hold up anymore. And the Democrats are realizing it. Here's Manu Raju from CNN. I forget who's in conversation with Dana Bash, I think.
That, and you say it's certainly, from a lot of perspective, it's a stain on his legacy. The other way to look at it is that the criticism, given where we are in politics right now, is a lot of pearl clutching, particularly from Republicans who are criticizing him. And just wanted to remind our viewers what President Trump did during his first term.
Come on, Dana. Really, the both sidesing of this sort of stuff, really, You're going through these pardons, but the difference between the pardons is that Joe Biden gave a blanket pardon, and Donald Trump gave very specific pardons, including to Charles Kushner, Jared Kushner's father. They were limited pardons. They weren't broad blanket pardons.
Biden sitting there watching the Republicans, I say, give me a break.
Yeah, that's probably one reason why he did it. Now, Jeff is absolutely right, though. This is a stain on his legacy. I mean, what Bill Clinton did in giving a pardon to Mark Rich, of course, the donor to the Clintons, right in the eyes as he was leaving office, that's also a stain on his legacy. What you mentioned there for Donald Trump, also undoubtedly a stain going forward. The bigger problem for Biden is just they were dishonest. He was dishonest with the American public about whether he would give a pardon. They said pretty flatly right before the election when he was interviewed, when he was still in the race a couple months out, that he would not give a pardon. He said that repeatedly. He said it. Karine Jean-Pierre said it repeatedly to the American public. So that is also not only giving it to his son, and pardons always look bad on a president, particularly if you're doing it for political favors or a family member. But what he said publicly, they were not straight with the American public, and people remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they will. The media invested so much in the narrative that Joe Biden was a decent person. He's never been a decent person, and anyone who's paid attention knew he was a decent person. And the media households, this is why so many of them are angry about it, because they invested so much moral energy in claiming that he was a decent guy, and he never was, and now people see it. I want you to go see Americans for Prosperity by going to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. You can sign up with them. They're the largest leading grassroots organization in the entire American continent. Well, North America, the United States, you get what I mean. They're fantastic. They got chapters in almost every state. I'm actually going to Salt Lake City the end of the week to give a speech for Americans for Prosperity. They support common sense conservative reforms across the country. They'd love to have you on board with them. All you have to do is go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer today. Sign up with them. You don't even have to tell them I sent you. They're going to know. And you can get involved. You can be a door knocker in campaigns. You can be an advocate for common sense conservative solutions. Or you can just simply be the most informed person in your circle of friends who knows all the great policy solutions out there. All you have to do is go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer today. Americans for Prosperity, the largest leading grassroots institution in the United States of America. They advance free markets, free people, and families. Go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer today. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan, wherever you are in the United States of America. If you're looking to have your business grow, if you're buying a building, if you're building a building, if you're buying a franchise, you're buying on a business competitor, you're buying on a partner, you need a heavy equipment loan, things like that. First Liberty has been helping businesses in the United States become bigger businesses since the 90s. The Frost family's still there, still at it, still in charge. So you're not going to be changing up your lender all the time. They would love to help you. If you want to find out more, go to firstlibertyga.com. Reach out to them. firstlibertyga.com. Tell them I sent you. Y'all, I saw some data from the Daily Signal yesterday, last night actually, that Kamala Harris is the first presidential candidate since Herbert Hoover in 1932 to fail to flip a single county in the United States. For perspective, she sucks so bad as a candidate, she became the second Hoover. This time, not J. Edgar, but Herbert Hoover. Hoover. It was Hoover. Herbert Hoover. And did I say J. Edgar? I'm too many Hoovers this week with the FBI and all that. Herbert Hoover in 1932 was not able to add counties. In fact, he shrunk counties, reduced counties, lost to FDR in 1932. Kamala Harris did not add a single county. She didn't flip a single county. She actually reduced Biden's votes in counties. She's just a bad candidate. The fact that she wants to run again in 2028, and she's hiding behind the excuse of, well, I only had 100 some days. But everybody knew you were a bad candidate. Go back to 2023. Democrats were telling Jonathan Martin of the Politico, for Pete's sake, that you were a bad candidate. But left unremarked in all this, and I wonder if something is going to give here. So Joe Biden has said he's going to the inauguration. There will be a peaceful transition, that he will be with Donald Trump, blah, 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 blah. When do the Democrats turn on Joe Biden? Before or after he leaves office? So he's now pardoned Hunter, probably going to pardon some other family members. I think Tuberville is right on that. When do the Democrats turn on Joe Biden? Joe Biden is definitely why they lost. He wrecked the economy, refused to recognize he wrecked the economy, said inflation was transitory, waited until the bitter end to drop out. He never should have run again. Remember, when he first ran, he said he was going to be one-term president. Stuck Kamala Harris with this. She couldn't separate herself from them, and they lost to Donald Trump, a man they said was a threat to democracy. And on the way out the door, having lied repeatedly to the American public, he pardons Hunter Biden. When do the Democrats turn on Joe Biden? Republicans do not like losers. Democrats despise losers. When Jimmy Carter lost in 1980, it was not until, I want to say, after the year 2000, I think it was the year 2000, that Carter showed up at another Democratic National Convention. Nobody wanted him. Mondale in 1984 did not want Jimmy Carter at the Democratic National Convention. Mondale had been Carter's running mate. Al Gore in 2000 invited Carter to come back. And then I think Barack Obama invited him to one of his conventions. But otherwise, he was persona non grata within the Democratic Party. Now, I don't know that Joe Biden's going to make it to the next Democratic convention given his rapid decline. But it is remarkable to me that the Democrats have not yet begun to go to war against Joe Biden and his legacy. In fact, when we come back, I want to spend a little bit of time on this, what it means, and where the Democratic Party moves forward, because the data is actually pretty bad for the Democrats right now. They saw a swing of every class of voter towards the GOP, even groups they won. For example, Hispanic voters, Democrats won them by 10, but there was a 29-point swing towards the GOP. Black voters, Democrats won them by 72 points, but there was a 19-point swing for the GOP. This happened time and time again. Massive Democratic swings. Non-white voters with no college degree swung 37% to the GOP. Even though Democrats actually won them by 27 points, you saw a 37-point swing to the GOP. In 2020, Democrats won non-white, no college degree voters by 64 points. This time, 27 points. When will the reckoning come for the Democrats? It's got to come at some point. The question is, does it come before or after Biden leaves office? But that man going to be persona non grata for sure.